So today we are going to be a bit more adventurous with text, so to speak, right? Where we are going to come up with, you can say, arguably our own manner of text, meaning to say that not restricted to what we have done so far. Meaning so far we have done things such as, outline is technically although also not restricted, but other than that we've been using layer masking and so on, right? So here we are going to manipulate it. Again, we're going to manipulate our text, right? So I'm just gonna write something here, and if you imagine, let's say for example, you're doing comic books and stuff, right? We're doing comic books today. I'm thinking I'm doing comic books, or rather one layout of a comic, right? So when we're doing that, it's common for us to have text such as like kaboom or something, someone punches someone else or something like that, or something blew up or something, right? So I intend to do something like that today. So I'm just going to write kaboom here. Of course, needless to say, you might want to edit it in such a way that you might want to edit, for example, the font face and so on, font face and or size, mostly font face, so that you get the most comic-ish kind of font, right? So let's say I'm done with that. Now, let's say, for example, we have done, before this, when we did the logo, we did where the text becomes, we did editing in terms of the shape of the text, where it becomes curvaceous and so on. It becomes curvy according to the path. Right, so I'm just gonna create a path here. Just gonna choose this path tool, right, and then just create a path, just like that. Okay, now I forewarn you that in terms of this path thing, GIMP is still a little bit glitchy, so to speak. So there are a few weaknesses and inconsistencies. You might get a result which is slightly different from mine for whatever reasons. But I'm just going to use this path, and I'm just going to use this text along the path. We've done this before, so it shouldn't be much of a problem, right? And we have that kind of a situation. So I have my text going curvy like that, according to the path that I have earlier, according to this path. Although it's slightly funny because it's slightly to the right for some reason, right? And so I'm going to use this path, path to selection, turn it into a selection, and make it invisible like that. Create a new layer here, and I'm just gonna name it text, for example. Okay, and I'm gonna use a color which is a bit more adventurous. Let's say red, right? Fill with foreground color, right? And you see, when we have comic books and stuff, all this kaboom or whatever, usually there is a very prominent outline to the text. So I'm just going to create that outline as well. So a new layer called text outline or something, right? Okay, right. Then as you can see here, my text is still being selected, so I'm just going to go to select and grow by around maybe 15 or something. I want it to grow like quite large so that it becomes prominent. Of course, I want it to be underneath the text layer, right? Change it to black and white again, and then edit fill with foreground color and select none, and so I have that kind of a text, right? So if you want to, of course, it can be very relevant to just merge this down, so it becomes the same layer, right? Then you can just manipulate. It's easy to manipulate, move it around, and so on. So this is one way of creating text, which is like that. But like I said, the path tool can be quite unpredictable, right? So I'm just gonna delete both of these paths because we no longer need them, right? And I'm going to show you another way of editing text so that it becomes like that. So this is just bringing this here, right, and then edit it using the text box again. Again, it's there's still quite a few glitches in GIMP, and for some reason I have to put the text in the middle of the text box, which I'm not entirely sure how to do using this tool here, right? I figured there should be a tool that enables me to do that, but I couldn't find it, so I'm just manually doing it by pressing enter, right? So the text is in the middle of the text box. Then I'm just going to use this cage tool. We haven't used this before, right? Cage transform tool. I'm just going to draw a cage around this text, right? So as you can see on the left hand side, the options for the cage transform tool, this is create or adjust the cage. So I'm just creating it like this, right? So I just create a cage around the text, just like that. You don't really have to be too precise about this. Mine is roughly a rectangle, right? Now I'm going to adjust this so that the text is adjusted along with it, right? So for that, I choose deform the cage to deform the image. This is actually, in my case, it's chosen by default here. It might or might not be in your case, but you want to do that, then you can do something like this. For example, I can deform it like that, right? Thereby making it, that sort of text, meaning pretty much the same effect as I have here, but in a bit more controlled manner, because it has some form of uniformity to a certain extent, right? And let's say I'm satisfied with that, then I can do pretty much the same thing. I can use this select by color tool, right? And then color it according to this color, right? So I choose the color picker tool and choose that color, red. Sorry, I need to choose that layer first, right? And then go back to this layer, right? And edit fill with foreground color, right? I don't know if you notice or not, but at the bottom of the text here, there's some blinking area as well. There's some blinking parts, right? It's because, like I said earlier, in drawing the cage, for some reason, when I do that deformation, sometimes some parts of that particular image is left out somewhere, so it becomes that weird blinking parts, but luckily it doesn't mess up too much with our text. So I'm just going to create the outline again, text outline 2, right? And then, as you can imagine, I'm going to grow that, select grow by the same margin, 15, right? So you see that it's pretty weird. So I might have something weird happening here. Edit, fill with foreground color. So I have that kind of effect, which may or may not be something that you want. So if you don't want it, you can just get rid of it just like that, and delete it. And I've got resulting in me. Okay, I have to delete it twice apparently, because it's the red part as well, right? And same thing, I can merge down, right? And I get two kabooms, right? One looking a bit more uniform than the other, right? So these are two tools that we would have learned as of now, right? Next up is drawing up the dialog box. You need to be able to draw a dialog box, of course, in a comic, right? So there are several, I would like to think there are several methods of doing this, but I'm just going to use this method. I'm just going to use a new layer called dialog box or something. Right. Okay. Right. So I'm just going to draw the path, which is triangular, according to how you want to use the dialog box, right? Remember, when you want to join the last 2 points, use control, right? So I have that, right? And I'm going to change this to selection, path to selection, right? Next, I'm going to use this ellipse select tool to join it with this. But for this, I have to choose correctly here, the mode, right? There's mode for subtract from the current selection, intersect, and this one is add. So I want to add it, meaning I want this ellipse to join with this triangle shape, triangle selection. So we'll just go like that, for example, right? So I have that dialog box, and so I can color with something. For example, I can edit and fill with foreground color, for example, right? And have another layer, right? Dialog box foreground. Okay, and then maybe shrink it by a few pixels, 4 pixels, something, right? Then fill it with background color, right? So I have that dialog box. So if you want a thicker line, of course, you shrink or grow it more, something like that. Then I just merge the two together, so I'll have my dialog box. And if I want to, I can put this inside, although my dialog box is a bit small for that. Of course, you can create the correct size, or you can go ahead and make it larger or smaller like this, scale it up. Okay. And then be able to fit whatever text that you want to fit in. Alright, so that is creating text with a particular shape as well as a dialog box in GIMP.